Hi, it's Emerson Lawrence with the Pinnacle team at RE/MAX Properties here in Colorado Springs. Here today with a bit of an educational video to all of our friends, family, and clients, and all of you homeowners out there who either are new to owning a home here in Colorado or homeownership in general. We'd like to share some tips and tricks with you as we are approaching the winter as to how to prepare your home for winter. So our climate here can be fairly harsh in the winter at times, and so some of these ideas that we'd like to share with you might help prolong the life of your home and prevent you from spending lots of unnecessary money in the future. So we'd like to start outside. Water is a big thing here. So if you're like me and you don't have a sprinkler system, you probably hand water if you have a lawn. So in that scenario, this is actually a little bit easier than if you had a sprinkler system. We'll get into that next, but you still want to make sure that you're taking the precautions to prevent freezing. So if you have a hose and you come outside to your side of your house to water every day, you're going to want to make sure that you unhook the hose at the hose bib. If you leave this hooked up, you could run into some issues with freezing and then ice bursting your pipes inside your home. You don't want that. No one wants that. So the first good step is to just unhook it. If you're going to be watering intermittently throughout the winter on the warm days, which we highly recommend you do, the appropriate action that you're going to want to take is to drain the hose between each use. So, pull the hose out, get the water going. After you're done, unhook it again and drain all the water out of it, because if you leave it sitting there, all the water will freeze inside of that hose. And as a friend of mine recently experienced, once you hook it back up, turn the water on, if you walk away, that hose is still filled with ice and could potentially block everything up and cause a problem, some flooding in the home. So that's a great first step. If you have a sprinkler system, then right now is a good time to reach out to a sprinkler company to get your sprinkler lines blown out, or at least drain the lines to get any water from inside the line out. I've talked to a couple home inspectors who have suggested maybe blowing out the lines is unnecessary depending on the age of the sprinkler system. The added pressure can be somewhat detrimental to the lines and the heads of the sprinkler system. People do it all the time though, so it's not necessarily, I'm not sure if we can advise one way or another. It's just one tactic you can take to help prevent damage to your home. So next we want to talk about some of your landscaping. To keep your grass alive throughout the winter, it dies here anyways, but like I said before, it never hurts to do some intermittent watering as you go. But there's some steps you can take to ensure that your grass will survive the winter even better. Some things to consider are you want to take your lawnmower at one of the lowest settings you possibly can. So if you take a look at the grass, there's still quite a bit of length here. As I get closer to the end of October, I'm going to give this one more mow at a lower setting than even where we're at here. Throughout the winter, you want your grass to be short. Throughout the hot months, you want it to be a little bit longer. So that's one step you can take. Maybe it's not a bad idea to clean up any shrubbery. You can see I have this giant hill here, and just last week I took a weed whacker to it and just cleared all of the brush, right, to get it kind of clean and ready for winter, because all of that stuff dies, and it just makes it so much easier in the spring when you go to spruce everything back up. So that's another thing. You want to, any shrubs that need pruning or extra vegetation that just needs to be kind of cleaned up, rake the leaves, leaf blow, whatever you got to do, just get it pretty much a clean slate for winter. Additionally, if you have landscaping lights that maybe are removable, as you can see here, I have a couple back in the backyard here that they're just on a post. I take them off. They're solar powered, but there's batteries in here, and I just take the batteries out and remove all of these from around my property and go put these in the shed for the winter. In the summer, I bring them back out, put new batteries in, and reinstall them. Very easy. Any patio furniture or fire pits, not a bad idea to maybe cover those or store them in something like a shed or your garage. I missed this earlier, but you might want to store your hose and all of your sprinkler equipment in your shed or garage as well. Just keeps it out of the elements, prolongs the life of all of these items. Okay, so a couple other just miscellaneous things that may or may not apply to you. Things like checking your gutters, for example. So especially if you live in a neighborhood where you've got a lot of big trees near your roof that shed a lot of leaves at this time of year, you're gonna wanna get up here, just check the gutter, make sure you don't have a ton of debris. As we get moisture and that moisture freezes, the less obstructions you can have in here, the better. I don't have a whole lot of large trees near my house, so like I don't have anything in my gutters, thankfully. But always a good idea, get up here, check it. If you do have a lot of debris, you're gonna wanna clean it out. There are companies that will do that for you, but it's pretty easy. And then make sure you don't have a whole lot of debris coming down your downspouts. Beyond that, you know, if you've got a hot tub, make sure you either drain it and winterize it, but Colorado, we love being outside all year round, so you're probably gonna wanna use that hot tub in the winter, so just make sure you're keeping it full and doing the proper maintenance on that. Any fence posts that are either weak or compromised, now would be the time to do that before it gets too cold and the ground freezes. It's easier to replace that kind of stuff when you can dig into softer dirt. So one last thing, general maintenance throughout the winter. Not only do you want to be shoveling your driveway and your sidewalk as it snows, but make sure you come out and shovel your deck and patio too. You don't want snow accumulating up against your siding. This side of the house does not get very much sun exposure, so it's important to make sure that that gets pushed away from your siding so you don't have moisture rotting the siding or rotting your deck. If you'd like to prolong the life of both of these things, they are wood, and moisture likes to do bad things to wood. So it's just a little tip and trick most people don't think about, but always a good idea. Also, if you're going to use ice melt on your concrete, make sure you sweep that off as soon as you get the ice melted, because that can actually cause damage to the concrete if it's left there for too long. So transitioning to the inside of your home, there's a few things that might help in the winter as well. If you have a fireplace, you're gonna want to probably use that in the winter. It gets cold, you wanna get snugly by the fire. We have a gas fireplace here. It's good practice to every fall get this cleaned and serviced. You'll start to see discoloration of the glass after quite a bit of use. You want to make sure that everything inside is firing accurately, and there's no obstructions to the gas line, and there's no issues with potential safety hazards. If you have a wood burning fireplace, that's a little bit more complicated. The combustion of the wood causes what's called creosote to build up in your flue of the chimney. So that would require occasional maintenance where you have somebody come out and inspect and clean your chimney flue. Beyond that, it's really just making sure that you're not seeing any abnormalities with what's going on inside that fireplace. But every fall is what we recommend as you're coming into that heating season where you're going to be using it a lot. You want to make sure you've got a functioning and safe fireplace. So probably the most important thing inside your home when it comes to preparing your home for winter is making sure that your furnace is in good working order. So every fall it's good practice to have a licensed HVAC technician, HVAC stands for heating, ventilation, and cooling, come to your house and clean and service the furnace. So they will take this panel off, they'll take this panel off, they'll open up the furnace, get inside of it, and clean all of the components to make sure that everything's firing on all cylinders, so to speak. They're going to make sure that there's no gas leaks, that there's no issues with the functionality of the furnace in general, and that everything is running as it should. They're also, they should be coming in and replacing your furnace filter. This one's pretty easy. Come in here, open up the panel, and there's your furnace filter. You should be doing this as well on your own every 3 months or so. We don't necessarily recommend you get the highest quality filters. It puts extra strain on your furnace. Very cheap filter works just fine. Just make sure you're changing it regularly. This one was just changed. I just had my furnace cleaned and serviced on Wednesday, a couple days ago, and brand new filter here. So make sure you get the right size too. Every furnace has a slightly different size filter. Another good practice that you might want to investigate here is your water heater. So you can actually prolong the life of your water heater as well by draining it every year. And so if you're going to have the furnace cleaned and serviced while you're in here, you can do this yourself. This is really easy. Just hook up a hose, very short hose, and you want to drain the water out of here, maybe 3 or 4, 5 gallons tops, into the drain, and that helps get any sediment that's been built up inside the water heater out, and will just prolong the life of the water heater. So it's not really a preparing your home for winter tip, but I figured I would touch on it because we're right here. While you're thinking of one, you can think of the other. Back to the furnace, one thing you might want to consider doing is when the furnace is cleaned and serviced, if you have a thermostat that is not one of the updated that are hardwired to your home, you can actually go in and change the batteries inside that thermostat. It's a good idea. You never know. You leave for a winter vacation and your battery dies in your thermostat, and then all of a sudden your furnace isn't heating your home. You come home, you've got potential problems if it gets cold enough. So I hope that was helpful. These are just general best practices. We have plenty of vendors and technicians and people who can come out and help you with some of these projects in your home. If you don't feel like tackling them yourselves, reach out to us. We'll get you in contact with the professionals. Otherwise, let us know if you have any questions. Thanks for watching.